Chopper, young millionaires, the general. Okay, I wake up every day, I'm feeling good, I'm feeling great. Every day I'm getting paid, man, this life is going great. I just wanna celebrate, I made it in and out of state. $1 million in the face, I got it here in summer safe. I multiply all my millions and really I am extremely wealthy. I distributed my millions with my family. This is just the beginning, I purchased a Lamborghini. Driving around the city, believe me, you haven't seen me. Made it through all the struggle, defeated all of my rivals. I was never entitled, I had to fight for survival. Man, this life is amazing, it's crazy the way we made it. Now I'm living my dreams and I'm barely just getting started. I'm in I'm just getting lost. That's it. Every day I'm passing. Gotta recognize the realest person in the fashion. That's it. Every day I'm passing. Gotta recognize the realest person in the fashion. I made it through the struggle back when I was very worried. Now I'm chilling, get my condo, Lamborghinis and Bugatti. I know you in a hurry, but I promise don't be worried when you see me in the club. I party, got enough to party. I'm a multi-millionaire, getting money everywhere. I ain't tripping on nobody, I just came to celebrate. Yeah, we got the party popping, got the general over here, throwing money in the air, cause we get it every day. I multiply all my millions, now me and my people winning. Moving city to city, I promise that you will see me driving a Lamborghini, but this is just the beginning. $1 million Bugatti, I'm stacking money in the ceiling. Multiply all my millions, now me and my people winning. Moving city to city, I promise that you will see me driving a Lamborghini, but this is just the beginning. $1 million Bugatti, I'm stacking money in the ceiling. I'm in I'm just getting lost. That's it. Every day I'm passing. Gotta recognize the realest person in the fashion. That's it. Every day I'm passing. Gotta recognize the realest person in the fashion. Things gotta fall inside. It is our blessing. We have all we need.
You're on, Jet.
What's up, guys? It's the General here live from the Grill with the Truth podcast. We got John, we got Carson, aka Little Winston. What's up, boys? How's the week going?
What's going on?
It's going by way too fast. This is really like my first week of school, so craziness.
I know my nephew's starting too, and this whole online. I walked in the house and he was like working out on his he had like weight training class or something.
Oh, nice,
he was like
nice.
doing like bear crawls and stuff. And he was like, "Oh, I got to do this for my class or whatever." But yeah, it's a whole change world right now. It's crazy.
Yeah, it is. Some of our football players have yoga, so they do yoga like that.
Yeah, he was doing yoga too because he has like football class too, so they had him doing that. But yeah, it's nuts. What's
Nikki,
the word?
geez, we need to open the door for the Nikki. I think. Is it unlocked?
Should be open. We got a packed house in here today.
Yeah.
We got a packed house.
I'm gonna move a chair and we'll get Nikki over here on this mic, and then we'll get Mello over here on my side over here. You guys go roll with it. I'll be right back.
What are we talking about today?
We're talking about the big stuff. So we got let's wait up for Nikki G. Ricky G's here coming in the house. Nikki, what's up, Nikki?
What's up?
I gotta get a better what's up than that. Come on.
What's up?
No, I gotta get a better what's up than that. Hey, look at this. Nikki G putting the magic. You guys see that? Right there. I'm gonna have to get these built in gold. Real gold.
Yes.
Real gold.
Right there. The YM coins, boys.
Yes, sir.
And gals. We're gonna put this in the real gold swag. Nikki G, we're waiting for you to get mic'd up over here.
Nikki G. What up? I came back. I disappeared. Feel great.
Yeah. So Winston, the kind of things we're going to talk about. Number one is, I took some notes down. I sent you guys over some stuff.
Right.
John's about to throw this on the big screen. But people's daily habits define the outcome of their future. How many times have you get around people that are always talking about, I got bad luck, right? I got sure bad luck, this is that.
Yeah.
And so I tend to sit back. Who saw my post today?
I saw it.
You saw my post?
Yeah.
You want to read it real quick?
Let me pull it up real quick. I'm glad we're talking about this because this was actually something I was thinking about today too. All right, so whoever didn't see the post said if I wanted to spend my time with clowns, I would have bought tickets to the circus. That was the last one you posted. That's what you're talking about, right?
That's the one, brother.
Yeah.
And so one of the things is, when I put that in, is talking about this, right? How many times have you been consumed by people around you talking about, I got bad luck, and it's crazy. Is I got a message yesterday, and someone reached out to me and said, "Look, I want to ask. I'm a business owner, and what I want to ask you is, how do you get your employees out of a funk, or something like that?" And I said, "Well, that's too much of an open-ended question."
Right.
Then he goes in, he talks about he's had all this bad luck, and this is what I had to tell him, right? And me, the general goes, he keeps it real, right? He keeps it the truth. And my whole thing is that.
You ready?
In our past podcasts, we talked about people say there's no luck, right? It's timing and preparation.
Exactly.
If you prepare to be a champion, you're going to get the opportunity to show on the big stage, right?
Yeah.
If you're always basically wanting to be a chump, where are you going to get that stage too?
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the things that I was talking about is this: your decisions that you make now are either going to affect you positively or negatively in the very near future.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And then have big effects. So I was talking about the bad luck. So this is for me. My response is this. And there's one caveat. I'm going to use this caveat, okay? You're a good husband. You're a good wife. Your wife comes out of nowhere and says, you know what? I want to split the sheep. And you're kind of like, holy shit, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
And you're dealing with the 3 kids.
Yeah.
Or you get cancer or something major,
Sure.
major disease. That's the only caveat. But when people are always telling me I'm on bad luck, for me, it's really a bunch of bad decisions that have accumulated, and now you're dealing with the outcomes of these decisions.
Right. And that's kind of something like, here's the reason why it was on my mind today, right, is because I was just thinking about everything that's happening in 2020 and really the culture that we kind of are in as a country is everyone's a victim, right? And the thing that I'm hating right now is everyone's like in competition for who has things harder, who has the worst luck or things like that. And it's coming to a point where everyone's kind of just focusing on that. And that's why so much people are not getting any result where they're trying to strive forward for whatever their goals are, and they're not getting anywhere with it.
Absolutely.
And what they're doing is they're continuing to say, oh, I can't do this, or it's too hard, or they're blaming it on COVID or the quarantine. And it's like, no, it's just the decisions that you're making right now that's predicting your outcome. You know what I mean? So that's kind of where I think us as a culture and society, whatever you want to call it, need to get out of that victimized state that we're in. You know what I mean? Where, oh, so-and-so had it harder because of this, or so-and-so had it harder because of this. Maybe that person did have it harder. But I guarantee you there are people out there who do have it hard and are still getting shit done. You know what I mean? And that's kind of exactly where right now, any decision we're making in this time, and we've talked about it before, we have more time on our hands. Some of us do, at least, with COVID and all this stuff going on. And how are you maximizing that? Like, John, you talk about, what you guys were doing with your boy in football and stuff like that. That was maximizing the time that you had. So that result and time that you put in is going to reflect an exact action once football season starts back up.
No doubt. Having that extra time to do those things, because I know for my two older sons were quarterbacks, and we just never had this time to do those things. So and we saw those, not having that opportunity, not being able to create things like, but find the time to do those things. Yeah. So, I mean, you can flourish, you can move ahead. I even look at this point right now, I see it as my son too. And him and I have had long discussions, especially when it comes to his academics. And I'm like, right now, this is, like in racing, when they put the warning flag up and everybody slows down.
Yeah.
And you really can't pass anybody. Right. And I'm like, this is an opportunity for you to pass people.
Yeah. 100%.
Because everybody's sort of in that idling gear or whatever. Now's especially academically, I tell them now's the time for you, so that when you're taking your ACTs and you're working for this, then, now's the time to pass people.
Yeah, for sure. And that's why it's so important right now. Like, if you were to, let's be honest here, right? What I've been doing is like in taking Aiden in and doing all this stuff is I'm trying to keep him at maximum productivity because it just keeps him in that go state. So now he gets up in the morning, we get up, we do fasted cardio, then he does his schooling until 12, and then we go back to the gym, lift weights, and then he goes to work. And he's not done until 6:30. And then by the time 6:30 comes back, then we eat our last meal, go to sleep, do it again. And we're just constantly going and going and going. And it's mentally developing him to know that it's just boom, 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 and constantly getting things done. But when you look back, like honestly, and asking the listeners, like since what was it, like March, February, since all this started? Like what have you done since then to strive towards your goals? And be honest with yourself, like are you guys really striving towards what you said you were going to accomplish? Are you pushing yourself to do different things? Are you pushing yourself to grow and things like that?
Or how many fucked up decisions have you done?
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Now you're sitting here and you're dealing and saying, what am I going to do, right? We talk about that. That's what I talk to the turkey about.
I want to say what I wrote down before I came in here. And
spit it out, Nick.
Okay, spit
Hey,
it out.
I'm feeling it.
We're getting you fired up.
I literally wrote this in the car, and it was a friend of mine's dad told this to her, and I always channel. I'm like, what can I? First thing I say when I come here, and it says, doubt doesn't dictate destiny, decision does. Mm-hmm. And it's just resonated with everything you guys said. And I always only speak from experience. And during quarantine, it was a roller coaster ride at first, trying to navigate. Right. But then one day I just decided that isn't me. I'm not a victim. And I got up and I have gotten so much further in the past 4 months than I have in the past 4 years because I utilized my time. I lowered my circle to more value and more people that bring fire. Like I know I love pumping people up, but I no longer roll with anybody that isn't going to level me up. And that's just something I needed because sometimes you can't go. But really self-doubt I had as far as like who am I as an artist and, stuff like you think in your head. And I woke up and I tell you, I practice everything. I stayed up last night listening to the podcast so I can catch up to everybody. And I just recently came back from a trip, very isolated. I was out in my RV editing photos next to a campfire, flipping my breakfast. And I looked up at the sky and I looked up around me and I just took a deep breath in and I said, this is what life's about. I finally am in a place where I have time, freedom. I was making money while I was doing what I love on my own time, in my own location. And that's something I used to talk about 10 years ago, sitting at a desk job, working for someone. And I finally am seeing those results that I put in years back.
Right.
And we are a result. Like, who are you hanging out with?
But she's leaving a big piece out. You know what it is, too? The general's been on her ass.
I was waiting for I knew it was coming.
You know what? They forget about the gen. I'm like the fucking jet fuel. They're talking about how good the jet flies, but they forget about the fuel. But that's all right. I'm just giving you guys shit.
It's real, though. It's real.
I'm on her ass heavy, right? Heavy. Yeah. But that's good. You can see it. Nikki's just doing some phenomenal things. That shout out to Aiden. I got to tell you a funny story is I took one of the company trucks on Saturday, and he's there, and I'm looking around. I'm thinking, here's this, what is he, 15, 16?
16 now.
16-year-old kid, right? Young man. And he's running the shop. And I get in there and I said, you know what? Just remember what my standard is. So he goes out, they takes a truck, and he doesn't hear me. He tells the guys, are you fucking kidding me? The gen's going to send this shit back. So he's out there with the vacuum, getting it past the line, and just watching him conduct himself. And he could have so much excuses. He could be like, I lost my dad. I'm dealing with some illness. You can do all kinds of bullshit, but he doesn't have that. And that, to me, right there, that kind of perseverance is what impresses me. You impress me, that's going to take a shitload. I don't get impressed easy, right? But shout out to Aiden, man, because you're truly what the new
killing it, man.
Generation of the unit really is. Is that hard work, dedication, no bullshit. I mean, he's on his knees cleaning those rims, and I was watching him like, I have to get some fucking knee pads, dude. But just killing it, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I told him, too, the day he stepped in there, I said, I don't want to hear Jason or any of them say, oh, this is what we got to do. I said, you already know the standard that you have to deliver. And I said, I don't want to hear anything. And he said, okay. And a month later, he became like the detail manager at 16. And then he's like, yeah, I have to tell all the guys that I'm way older than what I am. So they listen to me. And he sent like someone home and stuff. And I was like, holy shit. Like deep down, I'm not really telling him, but I'm like, damn, this is crazy. He's doing like everything that and it's trickled down. Like Jack's taught me the fundamentals, and now it's like my obligation to go and teach the new generation those fundamentals too. And just to see it happen, it's just freaking insane.
That's our future. I'm big on that. I love youth. You know, I've always thrived. My niece, she is a little legend, and I've been pumping her up since a little girl, and just to hear her mindset and hear how she navigates issues and problems. And it was like what you said, like it was a trickle down of what I taught her.
Yeah.
And you know, it's okay to break paradigms. Some of us aren't born in those good environments and those things, or we're not blessed to have those mentors because we're not at that vibrational level to meet them. You know, they're all there. It's just like, what frequency are we on? And and I can see through my niece when I was just with her, and I'm like, wow, I impacted her so deeply. It's embedded in her that imagine the amount of people that she's going to impact for the rest of her life. You know?
No, it's taking that momentum, right? But again, it goes back to those choices, right? It's like I hate to beat this dead horse, but I want to stick on, like, again, when you take that microscope and you really focus and you say, how many bad choices did you do to get here? You know, that's the what we talked about last week, right? You don't get fat overnight. You don't get fat because you ate 10, 15 bad meals. You got fat because you ate 150 bad meals, right? You know, it's not because you spent a few bucks. No, you go out there and buy a jet and you crash it, well, then you lose your money, right? But there's those exceptions. What I'm talking about is what accumulations of good decisions or bad decisions are you doing? And what are we going to stay focused on? Yeah. And I think that's exactly what it is. And so if you can't protect that and you don't know that, you got to be aware. Yeah. You got a rude awakening, right?
Yeah, for sure.
The bars being closed have helped with a lot of bad decisions. You know,
people are figuring it out still. They'll find it out.
But still, there's that I know has helped with some of my bad decisions.
Somewhat
Deter some bad decisions.
But 100% what your post said this morning, you know, don't the people you hang around is everything. Their influences, and I'm a huge believer in you conform to your surroundings. So just like the way things are now too, like I listen to Andy Frisella a lot. Shout out to him. But he was talking the other day. He does this program. It's like 75 hard. And you like work out twice a day. You write your daily goals down, accomplish them, whatever. And it's for 75 days straight. And he said he saw this lady post a thing that she was quitting. And he was like looking on her page and everyone was like applauding her for quitting. And he was like, what the hell is this? Like, you're applauding this person for not going through with something. And they were like, yeah, you know, you should know your boundaries. And if it's not for you, then don't do it. And this and that. And he was like pissed at the fact because he's like, how come society is at this thing where he was kind of talking about like everyone gets a trophy, right? And all this shit and everyone's a victim. And he was like, how are we applauding this when we should be telling this person like, no, get your ass back in there and get back on the program. If you did it once, you can do it again. But it's like he called it crabs in a bucket, right? If a crab climbs out and the boiling pot, naturally what they're going to do is pull it down because that crab couldn't get out at the top. So that's kind of where everything is right now. And that's why me personally, I'm so careful with who I'm around and not around a lot of people because of the exact crab in the bucket mentality. And it's true.
And I think you're doing a lot with, the profiting your own land, right? And I think I'm giving an analogy my uncle told me. When I was in the ranch, there was this dog he had, and the dog was always biting our ankles. And one day we're going to the outside, he shoots the dog, and I'm like, holy shit, he shot the dog. And so I'm like, why did you shoot the dog, Uncle Jimmy? And he said, look, if the dog is biting your ankles, if he bites the baby calf's foot and injures it, we're going to lose this much sale, right? If he bites one of my riding horses and affects it or causes it to break its ankle, we got to put it down. So when you look at that, those are those individuals in our lives that are biting our ankles, and we're thinking it's just biting our ankles. And we don't realize that the detriment they can bring is, are they a puppy and their teeth aren't that big to bring that much damage? Or are they doing enough intentional stuff in your life that finally you're going to slip on that banana peel and crack your head? It's not the banana peel that caused the death. It was the concrete. And that's what we talked about in the profiting your own land and stuff, and staying away from those negative people, because you will fall victim to them. Negativity, I don't care who you are, you'll fall victim to them.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And sometimes they're sneaky ones. It's like a garden, I always say that.
Snakes in the garden.
Some look like pretty little flowers, but they're weeds sucking the life out of your garden.
The pretty little flowers, the ones you really got to watch out for the most, you know what I mean?
Go ahead.
But yeah, I mean, kind of back to the topic, you know, it's kind of like what, for the listeners mostly, what are you guys doing on a daily basis right now? Are you making an excuse because it's COVID, and are you just out partying, going to the lakes and doing all this other stuff? Or are you actually trying to figure out how you want to come out of this year, or how are you going to maximize your time for this year, and what are you going to build? What goals do you have? Maybe it's fitness, maybe it's business, maybe it's in your career. How are you moving forward towards that? And that's kind of what I think people should really be honest with themselves and say, you know, what are we doing every day?
Yes.
Because things are slower. I mean, some people are working and stuff, but you know, there's not as much time, like you said, John, to go out to the bars and do all kinds of craziness. So it's like, okay, how are you maximizing this? And we've talked about it before, where right now is really defining how people, who is really going to go out there and strive and who really isn't. Because a lot of people are just kicking their leg up and saying, oh, whatever. Everyone else is kicking back. So
You know, I'm going to tell you this. Like, I take COVID, right? Obviously, COVID sucks. We're not going to sit there. It's a great shit. But what has it done for me? It's impacted me in a very positive way.
Mhm.
Because I've had to actually sit back and refine my craft even better because I got nothing else to do. But my life really didn't change, right? From home to work. You know, I just can't travel internationally or fly all over. I guess I could, but I mean, I'm doing it myself. But technically, I took that opportunity and said, okay, I need to refine my processes. And what I'm about to do on harmonics is going to be revolutionary for the next 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to be able to do it without this time period.
Right.
Because, I mean, it's too many distractions, right?
Mm-hmm.
Too many old fashions at 4 o'clock. And so those type of decisions I'm saying is you take what's given to you. And when you're a little kid, they would say, you know what, guys, take your lemons and make lemonades. That's exactly what this means, right? And so that is exactly the mindset that I hope the listeners are out there are really taking to heart and saying, okay, still focusing on this negative shit, what can I do in this time period to maximize my life?
Yeah.
Even on the fitness side, right?
Mm-hmm. Everything. And that's something that I was guilty of when quarantine hit. I was snacking. Then we couldn't really show houses. So I was just like sending out emails. It'd take me about an hour. And then I like jump on video games, snack. And I was like, what the hell am I? even felt like bad. Like I felt tired and I was like, what the hell am I doing? I got out of my gym funk. I do a lot of personal development, like listening to other podcasts and our podcast and things like that. And I wasn't doing any of that. And I was just like lost. I was like, what the hell is going on? And then I was like, okay, what am I going to do? So then when all this happened, I started writing my business plan for my new real estate team. Started learning construction, like how can I learn all of this stuff and do this? And then that's when I kind of woke up and started doing different things, how to maximize.
And also using, you know, the time that you're at. A lot of people have excuses because they have to go somewhere. Or
Yeah.
they have to do
There's a
something.
man.
Leader, man himself.
Oh, the man himself.
Aiden right there. We're talking about you, Aiden. Well, I was.
When I went on my trip, I could have easily just slacked. I mean, I was out in the mountains. I was, you know, having a good time, but I made myself a schedule. I woke up at 5 a.m. I went for bike riding on my bikes up the mountain, down the mountain. Like, you know, I didn't use my travel as an excuse. And
Mm-hmm.
and that was one thing I could tell in my development growth. You know, I count my winnings.
Yeah.
I count my growth. And I've noticed just, you know, from the past 2 months, I leveled up spiritually,
Mm-hmm.
mentally, emotionally, physically. And, you know, I didn't use my vacation to slack.
Yeah.
I used it to define my process. I
Yeah,
used
for
it
sure.
to kind of clean up my loose ends, you know.
Mhm.
That meant people, that meant patterns, that meant, I mean, everything. I'm sitting in pure water in my soul right now. And like, that's rare to find, but it wasn't easy. You have to put in the work. You have to filter your water. It's like, there was a story about, like you're born with a puddle of water in your brain. And as you get older, you learn paradigms or patterns or experiences that kind of dilute your water in your
Mhm.
brain. And so when I used to do self-development, I would see like a book or something I learned from a mentor as a gallon of water. But when I poured into my brain, it would just get diluted with the dirty water.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I learned is in order for me to really level up, in order for me to learn and to grow, I had to let the dam go and let that old water go. And, you know, what is it called? The pressure washed the bottom.
Yeah.
I really cleaned it out. And then I went back to those books I read. I went back to the journals, you know, because I used to take a book And whatever I thought should be highlighted went into my journal. And so like I always just fed my mind, even if I didn't understand it. But when I went back and I had pure water and I was putting pure water, there's a whole other human was born, because I wasn't falling into like an old thought pattern. Like, just say for instance, someone tried to do something really good for me, and my first response was my old paradigm of, oh no, I can't accept good things to happen to me. And I'm like, I stopped myself and I'm like, I'll never, ever say that again. I'll never shun me from what I deserve, because I have put in work. I got stuck in the middle of the mountains on the way back from Arizona in a car. I'm serious. I went to repo a car from an ex, and I was just on this journey, and the car broke down, right? But I was so divinely guided, because I'm sitting at the top of the rim in Arizona. It's getting dusk. It's going dark. The AAA said that it can come for me, but they can't for my car, but they can't take me with them, right? And so instead of responding, man, I went out for a jog before it got dark. I'm sitting there taking pictures at the edge of the mountain, set up my car. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to camp here. Yeah. I'm just going to, I would have camped if I was in my RV. What's the difference here? There I am under a billion stars, saying any other person would be sitting there just pissed. Yeah. And me, I was like, man, the universe slowed me down. I needed to enjoy this moment. I needed to take it. Waking up to, a bald eagle flying over the stuff, going back to the nearest town. I got there, fixed the part myself because I'm self-efficient, but it didn't define me. I just got back on the road, and there you were. I was like cruising, stopping like a tour guide or tourist in my own state. I stopped at a couple places, hiked, but I didn't let it affect me. 10 years ago, I might have like freaked out a little bit or, but I slept, I glamped in my car.
Nikki's my hippie sister. And I mean, when I hear that story, I definitely would have gone in hardcore there. And I said, you know what? I'm going to convince the sucker he's giving me a ride back, or I'm going to carjack him. Two choices, right? So,
he did give me a ride. He was cool.
Yeah, I'm not staying with the car. I don't care what AAA says.
Yeah. It's good though.
John, let's hit that next point.
So let's see, we got people that say all they have is bad luck in their lives.
I think we touched that one. I went across. Okay. So let's go to the second one.
Oh, okay. Well, the people's daily habits define the outcomes of the future.
No, we're going to touch this one. Okay. It's learning how not to entertain stupidity.
Oh,
gotcha.
Okay, this is a huge one. And I'm going to tell you right now, if you listen to this one portion of this, this is going to save you. And this, let me tell you about this, Rock. I wrote this to myself. Sitting around entertaining a conversation or topic longer than 5 minutes and wasting your time making the person believe what they are saying makes sense. So what you're doing right there is you're literally in training of a clown, and you're the clown master. And that's as far as you're going to go. How many times do we sit with people that you ain't going to convince in any shape or form? They're so preconceived notions or shaped in their ways, and you're there beating a dead horse, and they're telling you they're not going to change, but they're almost convincing you why they're going to do things their way. You got to sit there and say, I'm entertaining fucking stupidity.
Yeah.
Right? Or how many times have you sit there with individuals that their mindset and their goal set's not where you're at, and you're sitting there and you're still entertaining them, giving them that time, and they think, well, shit, he bought into my bullshit. And I'm going to tell you something that I do right now, John. This is what I've learned in my company, or, I mean, people that have known me. I've always had a short attention span to begin with, but now it's just razor's edge. If you're going to sit with me and tell me something stupid, I'm going to tell you exactly back. And stupidity might be measured based on the gospel according to Jack, right? And my life experience. But people will sit around. I don't know how many times, and women love to do this shit. They'll sit around with their girlfriends and say, you know what? The guy I'm dating sucks. And guys are the same thing, right? And they'll go through this shit and they'll go round and round, and 5 months will pass or 8 months will pass, and they never did anything to do it better. You know what I call that? Mental gymnastics. And people get stuck on mental gymnastics across the board, and no matter what it is, financially, emotionally, mentally, physically, whatever it is, it's just mental gymnastics. And we went to that talk we've talked way back in the day.
Yeah.
If you want to be a millionaire, take a millionaire out to lunch. If you want to get your physical fitness back into life, take someone that's doing something that inspires you and take them out to lunch.
Has the results.
It has the results, right? But sure. We'll sit down multiple times talking to people that ain't doing shit, and they're just talking nonsense, and we're there entertaining, and now we wasted the day. And people do this for 65% of the time. I was looking for a statistic. She ain't getting shit done. My philosophy is I tell people, you know what? How I make it real, I call it my political way of doing it is like every monkey on their swing your swing the way you want, I'm gonna swing mine the way I want, right? Mine's gonna be an R&B swing. If you want the heavy metal swing, that's your choice, but we'll see who gets there faster, me or you. That's what I'm thinking in my mind.
Right.
But I'm not even really telling that person that. I'm gonna cut that short, right? And so that's one thing. People will not be respectful of your time, right? Can I do this? Can I get your time? Can I? And you're sitting there in your mind like, why am I going to give up my time? Like, what are you bringing to me that's positive?
Yeah.
What are you bringing to me that's of value to me in any sense? And that's how I always try to tell people, if you want to approach people of a certain magnitude, it's about what do you bring to the table? And it's not about you're bringing money or big stuff, right? You look at Nikki and she comes in. We showed this once. And you look how cool this is. This is the logo for YM and talking about this coin. She's always bringing value. She's like, how can I better you? How can I do this? And so then you're sitting there and say, you know what? This person's made an effort, so I can help them better their lives or do this. But if you're sitting there saying, you know what? Like I always tell people, I'm not the business Jesus Christ. I can't perform a miracle. I cannot do nothing from zero. Can't happen. So that's one thing I kind of want you guys to give me your experiences, all of us here. Tell me about what you feel that you've actually sat down and entertained stupidity.
Spent my whole life. You know what I learned? Seriously, I came from the crab bucket, but I drilled a hole in the bottom and I was out of there real quick. I wasn't even trying to climb out. You know, I really, this is going to change everything, because this is how I navigate life right now. Is every word has a color in my mind. Red is like negative, blue is like positive, right? And when people talk, I see colors. I don't even care what's coming out of their mouth. Money.
Sometimes the good one's blue though.
Yeah, hey, it crosses over. And when I start seeing it go this way, I'll try to, in a sense, maybe I can sway it. Like I'll avoid conversations altogether. I always tell my friends, my ears are not trash cans. Call a friend that loves drama, but if you're ready for a different world, call me. Like that's how I've always laid it out. But that's how I separated it. Our emotions are the guidance system to our soul. And if you are really keen, and if you can really pull in and navigate, does this feel good or this feel bad? It changes everything. Because once someone starts going negative, I'm either out. Oh, someone's called me. I got to go. I will leave a situation. I cannot sit in a place where it's negative. It just deteriorates my soul. But I learned to navigate, because sometimes you don't know what's going to happen. Someone could look cool as shit, come up. I'm like, hey girl, what's up? And then it's like, oh, my boyfriend. And I'm like, my body starts rejecting it. Yeah. But it took a long time to really notice that your emotions are the guidance system to your soul. So that's something I could say that I've learned to navigate. You know, I even with everything, I mean, just for instance, I was hanging out with someone, and all they would talk about is what they didn't want. And I'm sitting there like, oh no. And then I just had to say, wow, back in the day, I might've had that conversation like, yeah, I hate my boss too. It's because we find that relatability to it, because that's the way humankind is programmed, right? If I say something positive, your mind's already attaching it to something that you can correlate it with. But yeah, that's what I learned, is really navigating.
But I'm gonna give you an example, right? Okay. I sit with people and they're like, I'm broke, and I'm like, I'm not. See, no attachment.
Oh, that's great.
Come on, John. You're on it, baby. I know your mind was spinning over there. I'm watching John just spin away.
Because I find myself, there's different parts of the day that I have less and less tolerance for stupidity, and it usually correlates when I've been teaching all day, and I've been dealing with stuff that I just want to beat my head against the wall with, but I can't, whatever. And unfortunately, I think my mother takes a lot of the brunt, because she'll call me with something like that, and I'm like, Mom, I've been dealing with stupid all day long. Can you please, So I just go through phases of, just trying to cope with that. But what I have done in the past is when I'll meet somebody and we're talking about something, and I see that we're clearly I'm never going to change his mind. most likely he's not going to change my mind, but I am going to listen. And I always take that sort of philosophy of, I'm always going to repeat back what you say, because I want to acknowledge that I hear what you're saying, and I'm not just waiting for my turn to talk. And I try to tell my students that all the time. When you're having a discussion with a person, or you're sort of debating somebody, acknowledge what they've said. It doesn't mean you agree with what they've said, but at least repeat it, versus just waiting for each other's turn to talk. And like I said, that strategy, you and I aren't going to see eye to eye, but let's find some things that we can agree upon, and then then we can have a more sensible discussion and not be just rivals facing across from each other, pointing guns at each other.
Right.
So that's sort of my strategy, because dealing with stupidity, having those people just bring you down, and thinking that you're ever going to win, you're not. Like one of my students, and I have to think of, he really worded it well. He goes, you get in an argument with a stupid person, they're always going to win, because they've had so much more practice at being stupid than you ever will, and you'll never ever convince that person. So they've mastered it. So trying to convince them to change their craft, ain't gonna happen. So as I use a bad phrase.
Yeah. Before that, I just had a joke, man. I'd say, John says, repeat what they say, right? When someone says, I'm broke, I just can't say it, John. I'm broke. You know what I mean? It doesn't work for me. You know what I mean?
If I were you, I'd just be wording, well, what I did here is that you said you're broke.
Yeah.
I really can't relate to that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I love that. And I like talking a lot of shit. This is what keeps us, the fun part.
It's just like, don't waste your water on dead plants. You know what I mean?
Don't waste the water, baby. The water is no water.
Yeah, because time's the most valuable thing right now, and that's something that we just don't get back. Camera's always rolling.
You're up, dude. You're up. Tell us what's stupidity, Winston?
Stupidity
that you entertained.
I just turn away.
So you never entertained stupidity?
Nope. It's wasting my time.
You've kind of just.
Yeah.
Well, he's the only immune one.
I'm the only immune one. I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm stubborn or whatever, but Aiden probably knows too. There's some stuff that goes on. Like, you get family business is what I call it. And I just say, well, here's what I believe, and that's that later. And then everyone just moves on. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that's just kind of how I've always been. I'm just going to set in my ways, and that's it.
I call it the moveon.com.
Yeah.
Chuck it
my whole thing with life is I'm not going to let like others, because like life's not promised, right? So I'm never going to die pissed off. That's my thing.
And natures, you can't change natures. I already told you guys the story of the scorpion and the frog.
Yeah, you told me that one.
Have anyone heard else heard it?
Say it.
I'm going to tell the story, right?
Say the story.
Do it.
This grandmaster once told me this. Once there was a scorpion and once there was a frog. And there was this big lake in front of them. So the scorpion tells Frog, he says, Frog, let me crawl on your back so you can swim us across the shore. Frog tells Scorpion, says, why would I do that? We're common enemies. You'll sting me, and then we'll drown. And then Scorpion looks at Frog and says, how would that happen? If I sting you, I can't get across the lake, and that wouldn't make any sense. So Frog says, okay, climb on my back. So Scorpion climbs on his back. Frog is swimming. He gets to the middle of the lake. The scorpion's tail goes up and stings him. And the frog says, are you stupid? I'm already going numb. We're going to drown. And the scorpion says, I can't help myself. It's my nature.
Oh, snap.
That right there
Heavy.
was one of the greatest stories that was told to me by a master. And so sometimes you have to ask yourself, is the person I'm letting crawl on my back, is it a scorpion? And so for me, I'm like, you're not crawling on my back. I'm not taking the risk. You see what I'm trying to say?
Absolutely.
But we tend to not measure stuff unless it's at that level. And so that's one thing. If it's someone's nature, and it's hard to measure that, right? But you can pretty much see they're not going to change it. Mm-hmm. And so you got to sit back and say, you know what? That nature's too ingrained.
Yeah.
Right? Someone's lazy as shit, and you're getting up at 5 a.m. and they can't get up, and you think you're going to form a relationship, whether it's a friendship or a relationship, ain't going to work. You're going to spend when you got up at 5 and they can't get up till 8, you're going to spend that 3 hours fighting. And then by the time it gets to 8, you're going to be drained, and emotionally and mentally, you're not going to be able to accomplish your shit.
Yeah.
Right? You know what I'm trying to say?
Absolutely.
So it's this constant.
Or you're going to start sleeping till 8 too.
I ain't sleeping 8. I'm going to burn the whole fucking house down. Right? But you know what I'm trying to tell you? And that's one thing, you'll never change natures. And this is for all the females out there that I've talked to. And I've told people this. You're never going to change a man's nature, or for the guys that you're not going to change a female's nature. If it's so ingrained in them, they're not going to change. You know, it's who you are. So you got to know, you got to look at the red flags on the plane. Same thing in business. If the guy has shown in his business financials that he doesn't pay his bills, he's going to fuck you over. Why do you think you're going to be the one that you're not going to get fucked over? And I've seen so many business guys now that have done these deals with these sharks, right? And now they're dying and they're walking away from the debt saying it was COVID, and the small guy's getting fucked, right? And Carson knows I'm picking up a lot of people's big places in the background because of issues like this. And you look at it and you're like, man, I could have seen that a mile away. One of the greatest stories, I sat with this attorney once, and he tells me, you know what? I'm known for being a shark. And so I said, thank you for telling me that. I said, because what I'm known for is a fucking killer whale. So when I get in the water with you, sharks never kill killer whales. You guys just kill at will. We kill for need. Difference in predator. And that's what you got to always understand. You might not always be across the table, not without a predator, because they're going to get shit done. But know, is that predator a warm-blooded predator or a cold-blooded killer? You know, right? Crocodiles, snakes, all that shit we talk about. They just kill based on instinct. There is no reason, rhyme or reason. You got too close, they snapped on you, right? And so I think those are the things that we have to learn at a very young age to understand that there's those type of individuals out there, and you're not going to change them. All they're doing is becoming bigger. So you might know them as the baby shark, but as time goes by, now they're an immense shark that's going to eat your lunch.
It's like cancer.
So it's not going to change. And that's what I think we see. You know, I talk to people a lot. People come to me and say, you know what, Jack, this happened to me. And I'm like, you didn't get no warning sign? Oh, yeah, there was that one time, you know, that she acted this. And I'm like, what did you want? Running you through a vigorous bullshit, right? No matter who you are. I see the financial statement, your tax returns, what your credit score, all that. It don't matter who it is, right? Now he's telling you this. If you're gonna try to come borrow money from me, were you able to get through the bank? Because if you can't get through the bank, you're definitely not getting through mine. Right?
Yeah.
Bottom line, you know,
100%.
Imagine if you sit there and you don't want to hurt the person's feelings. You're like, okay, let's talk about it. Oh, I might think about it, and then all of a sudden you're fucking backpedaling for 2-3 days, and they're mad, right?
Yeah, then it's affecting your
Words
life
are
at that
powerful.
point.
It's not powerful, but you know what I tell people? No, if it ain't for the kids, and ain't for the elderly, I'm not fucking interested. Sorry, done deal. Right? It's my platform.
Yeah.
Done deal, right? If it's a kid, he comes to me and says he has a need, instantaneously. You're 15, 16, 17, you made a bunch of bad choices. Don't talk to me about that shit, right? Join the military. That's what I did. And so those are those things that I talk about that I really can't have that, right? And then you're talking to a guy who grew in one of the smallest towns, period. Fucking Albuquerque is a metropolis. I mean, Santa Fe is a metropolis for me. And so when I talk about that, I'm talking about an individual like me who has to drive 45 miles one way just to get a fast food job, right? And so when people want that kind of empathy from me, it's hard for me to give it.
Yeah. That's like I was talking about earlier. You know, everyone's a victim nowadays. And it's like, oh, I have things so hard now. And it's like, okay, well, what about this individual that had it way harder than you, and they are a success story? Yep. So what are you even talking about? You know what I mean? And there's so much people that have things harder than others, and this and that and this and that. But it's all about the people who don't make the excuse and actually execute on what they're going to do. Because everything's about action. The world does not care. The sun's going to come up tomorrow, regardless of whatever happened to whoever, and life goes on, you know? And that's what I think people don't really understand.
Yeah, everybody stays on the same level of the problem. You know, you don't really ever arise. There's millions of solutions. It's endless. But every time I run across to things, when someone comes with me a problem, I'm like, okay, give me 10 solutions.
Yeah.
And they look at me and I'm like, you haven't even thought about it. Like, how am I going to help you if you haven't even thought about your own solutions? Like, how is that even valid? You know, so I've learned to get better, you know, with my words. And, you know, I'm very proud of where I came from, just as far as I came with my communicative ability. I grew up in Espanola. I grew up slanging my words. And I remember sitting in a meeting at Fender, and I'm sitting here like thinking I'm on top of the world. And this lady used to write me emails after the meetings and correct everything I used to say. And I just couldn't understand it, you know? So I'd go back home and I'm like, everybody speaks like this. Okay, it is a thing. But I just realized that, okay, this lady needs to believe me. I'm gonna come in heavy. I'm gonna be very articulate with my words. I'm gonna be very passionate, and I'm gonna pierce her.
Yeah.
She invited me to speak at one of her toaster things 2 years into working for them. So when she met me, she used to tease me to when I tell you, I apply shit, whether you give me good criticism or bad criticism, I apply it. 2 years later, she's asking me to speak at one of her open public things. And it was just because I didn't let it make me cry. It would piss me off, and I just get better. Yeah, it was. And I feel like a lot of people use other people's perceptions and just observation, everything to dictate their life. Like, I'm constantly in this bubble, even in shitty situations or good situations or anything. I'm constantly navigating in my own bubble and being in control. I can't control how you think about me, how you think about me. All I control is my authenticity, I can't say that right now, and how I navigate on my responses, my vocabulary, and my actions.
Let's get someone to judge you.
Okay.
Only on your actions. The rest, you could talk like shit, but the actions matter to me.
Hey, I come with results.
Read number 5.
Number 5.
Right there. Number 5 from the General's 10 Rules of Life.
It's my favorite. People's opinions can't be cashed at the bank. So don't worry about anybody around you. Measure yourself. Invest in your mind, body, and spirit.
I got to tell you a funny story, right? Everybody knows this. You know, I was up at the Mayweather camp, and I was in there with Floyd in his locker room, and we're eating chicken, right? So he wants some chicken. I said, sure. So I left, and there was this guy who's broken. He says, we're laughing. And he comes to me and he says, a bunch of haters like, did you see that Floyd can't read? And I was thinking, I said, do you know that? Or he can't write? And I laughed my ass off. And I said, when you're Floyd Mayweather, you don't even know how to fucking write. You're worth millions, hundreds of millions. Where are you at? And he's like, what? I said, you're broke as shit. So what you're telling me is that you know how to read and write well, but you're broke as shit. And I just called him out right there, and he didn't know what to say. I said, ultimately, if you're trying to point out stuff about people, that means that you're so fucked up internally, and you got to stay away from those people. I don't walk around anywhere in my life and see somebody and be like, well, that guy sucks, or he's short, or he's fat, or he's this, or he's broke. That doesn't come to my mind, because people that are doing shit, you're too occupied in your mind. You're actually looking there saying, geez, Nick, you look really good since last, you know what I mean? You're focused on that. And that's what I'm trying to say. People that don't got shit going on in their life are the ones that are going to make you feel bad. So you got to take yourself out of that environment and put yourself in a different environment. You know what I'm trying to talk about?
Absolutely.
And so that's where it's so, if you're a very empathic person in whatever I think your weakness is, even like Superman, right? He couldn't be around kryptonite. And so my famous word to people is, what's your kryptonite? Well, I don't like negativity. Like, one thing you'll know about me, I don't like controversy. So whether it's my personal life or friends, I'm never going to sit with you back and forth arguing and getting up and down, because the thing about me is I only got 2 speeds. I could stay real mellow, or I could get to the Hulk, and then it's going to be a fucking disaster, right? So I tell people, anyone who's going to challenge me to lose myself, I got to exit this building. And that's what I'm talking about. Same thing for like you, Nikki. Like, what I would have done, like, say I'd have been coaching you with that lady and she said whatever, I'd have said, you hit him with your actions. You learn the things, but you let your work speak for you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Always let your work speak for you. And I remember for a long time when I came out here, you know, I left Miami and came back to Albuquerque, and I remember people like just didn't know who I was because I just hit the scene hard, right? And one time, you know, people would have opinions and we'd be going back and forth. And my famous line to shut people up, and it would just crush them in front of everybody, is I was saying, I don't even know why I'm having this conversation with you, because we're not in the same tax bracket. And it would just, holy shit, stop and be like, oh, that guy, he's an asshole. But what was funny was that was my uppercut. You come foul at me, I'm going to come 110%. So I created this reputation of, if you come at me stupid, I'm going to hit you so hard. And so people just left me alone. Right. So people have said, Jack, you know, I hit the club scene really hard for about 3-4 years. I never had any problems. You know why? Because I don't entertain stupidity. zero stupidity. Right? And you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
And so that's just kind of my thing, Nikki, for me with you. And I love this opportunity that we're here because I'm like, yeah, I kind of feel like myself like the coach and you guys are rising high is I'm kind of coaching my own team. I can see how Tom Brady feels in the field or like LeBron because I'm not the coach like Belichick sitting where I'm not playing anymore. I'm playing in the game. But that's what I like to see with you. And I see these maneuvers and how you do things. And now you're leapfrogging these people. But what I want for you is to be able to just, when someone throws you something, it just kind of falls off the armor and says, that doesn't matter to me. And that's why I have those 5 rules. And, my famous line, I said it over and over and over again. I said, when the general gets up in the morning, do you really think he gives a fuck what you think about him? None. You know what I'm trying to say? That's so liberating for your soul. And obviously you care about the people that you love that care about you.
Yeah.
If they're saying, hey, I'm going to give you some criticism that you're a fucking douche today or your hair sucks or whatever, you might listen, right? But I'm saying the people that come with a negative intention, you got to have that. You got to be ready right there. You can't be with the kid gloves. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I've actually gotten that recently because that's something you've taught me a lot recently because I used to be so sensitive to people. Like I felt like I had to save everybody, and then finally, like he kept telling me, I'm like, okay, so this is apparently something that I really have to work on, like I can't save the world. I can't save drowning people. Like I got to save myself. And it's been so liberating. It's been so free. Like people have come to me recently with like drama and stuff. And I'm just like, I'm about to hit print on my GoForge, gotta go. And I just like hang up because I don't even have the desire to entertain it. Like I don't even, my dog even annoyed me last night. I'm like, get out of here. Like he was just whining for me to pet him and he's messing with my workflow. So I kicked him out of my office and I was like, I don't even got time for my own dog. He wants to come be negative, but it's something that took a lot for me to get to.
That's a beautiful point. You know what that is? Controlling your environment. And that kind of steps into what I'm talking about. Whether it's a dog or anything, you don't have to put up with the shit, right? It doesn't matter. You're in control of your own domain. If I don't want to listen to the dog pissing all over the carpet, I'm kicking him outside. And it's funny how animals fall into line faster than humans, but you gotta continually have that reinforcement. Like, if you know something about me, like the no for me is dishes in the sink, period. I don't give a shit if you eat in 10 minutes, 4 minutes, 4 hours, that shit better be done immediately. That's a zero negotiation for me, right? And people say, well, why don't we do it later? No, why not do it now? Right? You know what I'm trying to say? Mm-hmm. And if you start to train your mind like that, you're never going to have issues.
Yeah.
Right? It's like I have the no eating rule in my car. I have a lot of rules, but that's why my shit ain't screwed up. Right?
Mm-hmm. A lot of structure.
And then you're not there sitting with, Carson said this once and it was crazy. He says, I always take off my shoes going into my house. And it's not because of the cleaning. I could give less a shit. Right? And he'd always ask me, he says, what do you clean? I says, the reason I take my shoes off is I always want to see what people will do. And what I've learned when you're in Asia and I approach the masters, you always take your shoes. And if you're going to the big temple, you wash your feet. It's out of respect. And it's about washing out all the negative energy that's on the outside so that you don't bring it into the temple. And Carson used to get a lot of flack when he was coming to my camp because he'd take his shoes off and people would be like, why are you taking your shoes off? That's weird, or, cause the stuff. And I'd be like, it doesn't matter. They're already showing you that they don't respect you at that level because they're saying, well, I want to bring my ways into your way of living. That's not going to work for me. Because a respectful person is going to be like, hey, if you want me to put on booties in your house, I'm going to do it. I'm not going to have an opinion. Why do I give a shit? Right? Yeah. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, and you'll notice a lot too. Like if people come over, I'm not the one to say, oh, take your shoes off. I just kind of do it. And you'll see like some people will do it on their own, or some people will just go up, and go into the house. And it's just like, you kind of look at that. And after he told me the purpose of it, you kind of gauge where people are with the respect level for your area.
Don't you think probably those people have a correlation between self-awareness and as far as they aware of their surroundings? Do they see, oh, you know what, that's how this person does this. Mm-hmm. I'm going to respect what they do versus they're like a bulldozer and they just come.
Yeah, but in a China shop.
But yeah, they just trample on anything and they don't look at the world around them. They're only concerned with what's affecting them.
Mm-hmm. And it's the little things like that you kind of see how people work. I mean, even like you said, the dishes, or like, do you make your bed every morning? Are you putting your clothes away right after the dryer, is wrapped up? Are you doing those little things? And that was one thing that Jack kind of taught me at first. And he's like, you have to do all these fundamentals. I was like, okay, well, whatever. And then he's like, all you have to do is apply this to everything else you do. And it's like, okay, because it's
like,
about the fundamentals,
he was
you know?
Yogging you, right?
Wax on, wax off, you know, like no dishes in the thing, shoes off, make your bed, do this, do that. You know, everything is perfect. Like right now where I live, I could put it on the market right now and probably sell right away because everything's perfect.
Look, I got to tell you a funny story. I taught these guys the laundry fundamental, right? I don't own an iron, but my shit's all pristine. So they'd come over Sunday, we'd be kicking back. And so with me, if you spend time with me, I'm not stopping what I'm doing. I don't give a shit. So your feelings better be good. Mm-hmm. So he'd come over, we sit there, we'd cook, and we'd be screwing around, talking, and I start the laundry. And he's like, oh, it's Sunday. And he knew immediately. It was laundry and Sam's Club, right? And so we're talking bullshit and doing it. And I said, look, this is what the fundamental is. From the washer to the dryer to the hanger. Or folded. You never have to do any shit. And so when I'm sitting there with people and I'm like, fuck, all the clothes is on top of the washer, that says a lot about you. And it's not a negative thing, but it says a lot about you, right? And so I would always, one of the first things when I was very younger, in my mid-20s, you know, girls would be like, oh, you know, want to date me and stuff. And I go and I say, let me go to your house. Okay, and I go and I just take a fucking look, right? I go to the bathroom and I take a look like this. And I go in like that. And then say, so what's up? And they'd be beautiful girls. And I say, you know what? I'm going to tell you something. My life's going to look like this. And I just can't handle this shit. You see what I'm trying to tell you?
Yeah.
And
I love it.
That's what I look at 1,000%.
Yeah,
right?
It's true. You know, all the little stuff replicates in your life. The smallest actions and how you live your life is the largest, you know, outcomes.
Yeah, everything you do pours into it.
It's everything. And the beautiful thing is this is where I feel like, you know, I always looked at people and I'm like, wow, like they're there. But like no matter where I was, I knew that I could change where I was. Like my friend used to always tell me, Victoria, shout out, I know she's listening, she's just texted me, but she used to always say, no matter where you go, there you are. And I used to laugh because it used to be maybe an excuse I would say or, you know, something, but like no matter where you go, there you are. Your patterns, you could drop me off. He can have an extra mansion. He's like, no, Nikki G, you're going to live in it. And he could drop me off in there. Everything's pristine. But it's like how it's going to be in 6 months from now is a result of my lifestyle, right? And that goes with anything. And this is the biggest thing that I've learned from you is he was always, it's never about the opportunity. It's like staying ready, you know, and that goes with ready as in my thought patterns, my eat patterns, my sleep patterns. I've been sleeping more.
See that?
See my face?
Own it. I own it.
I'm looking
Jack
good.
tells me a hard time. I'm like, no, I don't get
myself.
up at 5. I'm sorry.
I surrendered. I surrendered.
He takes it to a different level, right?
Yeah, I did.
I said 8 hours. He took it to 14.
But it was something that I learned because I really do. I need rest. So I implement pattern changes. But if he dropped me in that mansion in 6 months, he'll know my lifestyle when he walks in, you know, and that lifestyle reflects my bank account, my, you know, my network or whatever it might be.
Everything.
And it's crazy. But the best thing is we can change our life right now. Like I bet you whoever was listening, everybody's like, oh shit, my clean clothes are in the basket or whatever it is. But it's okay. Those are the beautiful moments of you realizing that you can change
it.
Yeah,
you can change it. And this kind of leads us into the second, my other point. And I say, learning just to say no, or your issues are not my issues. So people are so hard to do. They're so scared of that, right? They're so scared of that. And the thing is, how many times are we sitting there and literally raising our fucking hand for stupidity? Okay, I'll join the goat rodeo. No, right? I'm trying to herd cats. I'll join the cat herding. No, right? And sheep. I think the sheep's a little easier, right? Because you can herd those suckers. But cats and goats, you're not going to eat it, right? And so I think ultimately is how many times are we partaking in stupidity and we're in the game and no one's going to change? And you got to learn how to say no. Mm-hmm. I'm a master of the no, right? Can I borrow a loan? No. Can I drive your car? No.
Hey, I get you to say yes sometimes too.
Yeah, he's got to work the pressure.
I'm a salesman.
Yeah, he's a heavy salesman. Things like that, right? Mm-hmm. And if you learn to do that, you're going to save yourself a lot of heartache, and you'll gain more respect in the other person, right? Because then they think you're going to go in with a yes, and there's that old saying that says, let your yes be your yes and your no be your no. And so I think you've been learning that, Nikki.
I have.
Because
Well, it feels
Nikki
good.
didn't know no. Her no was like, okay. And that's just, that's,
Yeah, it's like an automatic gun now. I'm like, nope, 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 nope. But it left room for my fuck yeses.
Yes.
Those no's left room for my fuck yeses, and that's so important. If I tell a friend, like, put a quarter, and on one side's the F yes, and on the other side's the other no. When that quarter's in there, the feeling you'll know what you want to do. And if we can approach that in, business, the second we start having to delegate stuff, like, that's that. As an athlete, there's an intuition thing that we do, right? When I used to play sports, I didn't even think. Man, I was just in the moment, in the zone. And that's the same thing with our life. Like, if you have to convince yourself that why that person should be in your life or why you should be spending a certain time, then it's not right. It should be either a fuck yes or a fuck no. Like, for instance, I just got in town. He's like, podcast, they said fuck yes. I didn't even think. I didn't even care if I had a photo. I didn't even care because I'm going where I'm going to get leveled up, right? And I'm going to be cautious of my surroundings. And so that's how I was. And like today I shot with my friend Luciana, and like I love her. It's so beautiful to watch people develop, like from the moment that I first photographed her, it took me 5 years to get in front of the camera. The day she came, it was just like, you could tell, like, there was it was just something new or whatever. And then you get her at my shoot today, and she's got her poses unlocked. Like, she leveled up herself, and it's so beautiful because I'm going to kind of go back to like when we talked about some people with issues. Sometimes because you saw me, maybe I wasn't the shiniest little, extra frog on the pond, but you saw something in me. And sometimes we need to know when we see those ponds. And I've taken a bunch of people, and like I lit their soul on fire. And in that return.
But let's look at this analogy, okay? I'm going to use that.
I'm
going to spin that for you.
Okay,
let me tell you what I said. So when I saw you as a frog, okay, you were jumping in your lily pad, and your tongue was going out, and you quite couldn't get that fly.
Yeah.
Right? And so what I did is I said, Nikki, I want you to jump from this lily pad to this lily pad. Now jump like you're doing. Now throw your tongue. You were showing an effort. And see, where you're getting mistaken, this is what I'm going to cut you from these habits, right? Is that don't miss the shot. You can't. My trainers used to say this: never fall in love with potential. There's no such thing.
That cut deep.
Never fall in love with potential, right?
Yeah.
And so you were jumping like a frog, and I just had to put you. But this is where you've mistaken. I think a lot of, I'm fucking guilty of this majorly, right? The frog isn't jumping, and it looks shiny, and I'm like, that frog can jump. And then the frog's like, well, I never wanted to jump. I was happy in my fucking lily pad. And so what I'm saying is that you can't, people have to be making the effort before you step in.
Absolutely.
Right? You can't walk onto the NFL. Can't walk on the NFL. You have to be a supreme athlete that was in college, and then you're there at the combine, and you're still, it's unless you're a fucking superstar. But you had to prove somehow around 2 years or 4 years to play at the NFL. Same thing with the NBA. So what I'm saying is that you have to ask yourself, what kind of coach am I? If you want to be the alpha coach, Nikki, I love you. Go for it. That means everybody comes in, and then you're like, you're playing with it. Not me. Me, I'm the NFL coach. And I'm not any NFL coach. I want to be the Belichick. So I'm not putting up with everyone's bullshit. I want the very specific. And that was where you were coachable. I know, like, this girl's smarter than shit. You didn't even know, but I was doing multiple tests on you that you didn't even know. And I'm going check, check, check. And then that's where it was. But you had that effort. Same thing with Carson, right? When he came into my life, I came in and said, okay, he's got this, and he's putting this efforts, and I'm fucking kicking the shit out of him at work. Because people think my life's just Lamborghinis and private jets, right? But when I put you to work, it's pretty intense, right?
The results show.
And so ultimately, I'll have you fucking mopping shit, cutting trees, that, and then the next time we're gonna board a jet, like literally. And so my whole mentality is, are you worth being here? And so you're never too good for anything. You understand what I'm trying to say?
Oh, absolutely.
And so it's never losing that edge. So that's why I didn't tell you no. But I'm gonna tell you right now, many people have come before, and they're not jumping in the lily pad. And you know what I'm doing? I'm not saying nothing. I'm just looking back like this.
Well, I was like you say, I used to always tell Jack, like, I got a suit ready, I got work clothes ready, I got workout clothes ready, I got this ready. And I would like have my car packed with like all kinds of different outfits, because one day we'd be digging a ditch, then the next 2 hours we'd have to go like to a dinner, or we'd go to like a gala, or do like so much different stuff. And it was like,
You stayed ready.
because the first time we went to like a nice dinner and stuff, and I had like wood chips in my hair and everything, because we were like cutting wood and stuff. I was like, dude, I can't be getting down over here. So, you know what I mean? Ever since then, it was like I always had to have like 5 outfits ready to go at all times, because it's just crazy.
I love
Look,
it.
shout out to the 2 young guys that came to help me this weekend, Elijah and Yamil. And I put them through the fucking fire, right? So I said, what time are we starting? 6 a.m. And so I'm there 5:30 waiting, right? And so we're, you guys have been in my house.
You know I'm taking notes, right?
That's a lot of that's a lot of grass, right? So we're cutting all this grass out, and he's like, holy shit. And we pull these weeds and everything's perfection. He says, what's next? I said, we got to go move some block at the office. We paint shit up. Come by 1 o'clock, these guys are dying. And I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, holy fuck, right? These guys are in their fucking 20s and I'm eating their lunch. And so when I look at that whole thing, I think it's the mental power, right? And they were even saying that. And then we went to go get the car cleaned up over there, and they were falling asleep in the lobby, right? And it's not about that, but the whole thing for me was this. And they're probably thinking, why is he putting me through this? Because if you tell me that you want to be a fucking millionaire, if you think that's the hard piece of it, that's a piece of cake. So I'm building your mental stamina till you're so beat down that your mind says give up, but has your body given up? Once you can surpass that, and then let's say you have a little bit of smarts, you're going to be unstoppable. Unstoppable.
It reminds me when you told me, is it the alpha? What would you tell me when I first told you, I'm tired of being chubby, I want to work out? What was it the thing on when they meet?
Timing and preparation?
Yes, timing and preparation.
Yes.
Can you say that? Because I want to just rehear it. Because it's so good. It just goes with everything across.
Well, I remember when you came in that day and you're like, you know what? I hit a 2-hour workout and I'm there. And I said, well, come with me to the gym real quick. And then we're in there for about 15 minutes. And Nikki's like, holy fuck, this was the next level, right? And at that one time in my life, that's all I did. Eat, breathe, and fitness, right? That's what I tell people. People would come in and tell me big fucking stories. I go to Sports and Wellness, bench 455, 8 reps. I didn't see a damn thing. The coaches at UNM would say, holy shit, this guy's 210 pounds kicking the shit out of our middle linebackers. But I knew that I was always in preparation. That's all I did in that time of my life. So if you're going to do something, pour your heart and soul to it and perfect it. Don't just be dilly-wigging. And I call that the Barbie syndrome. How many people do you run into and they're like, oh, you know what? I'm in barber school and I'm going to do this. And I'm in nursing. And that's the fucking one that makes me laugh the most, right? And so I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, okay, one, I know you can't, your math skills fucking suck. So we know you're not in nursing, but I'm going to go play with that. And I'm going to shake my hand and sit there. But that was the old Jack. You know what I do now? I just call you out on your shit. And they're like, whoa, right? But ultimately is what I'm talking about is the no. The no. Learn to say no. It will save you so much in your life because then you'll be your authentic self. Right?
It's true. It's freeing. For me, anyways.
It's free for me too.
It's very freeing. It's amazing.
What else you got?
Did you practice no?
I say no pretty good.
You always say no?
Not always, but I kind of feel bad for people sometimes. I'm guilty of that. But once, what's the saying? Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice,
Shame on me.
Shame on me. Fool me 3 times, can't put the blame on you. That's
you get to 3 times, dude?
No, I get to 2.
Yeah.
I'll get to 2.
I get to 1.5.
Hey, that's not too far from me, so I'm doing all right. No, but I do. I mean, I give people a chance, and I like to see if people do actually, I guess, like have the potential to be corrected. And if I give someone advice and they don't take it, that's when I'm out. I'm like, all right, well, you got it all figured out. I don't know what you're doing here.
Yeah.
I think I was telling Carson this. I'm not going to get too deep here on live Facebook, but I come from a different code of ethics, right, in my time. And I think one of the things is what's really lacking today, and this is kind of going to end, we're going to kind of end on this note, is actual respect. And you get today's generation that think they can just get there overnight and they lack respect. LeBron James has been in the league for 20 freaking years. You know, my funny joke is me, LeBron, and 50 Cent all came out in 03, and we're still killing it, right? In that time period, he's 20 years in the league. So you get these guys who are like, oh, I'm going to be like LeBron, or I'm going to pass LeBron, I'm going to pass Michael Jordan. And I'm sitting here like, I'm looking from the armchair standpoint, like you've been in the league for fucking 1 year. How can you even say that? You have no statistics behind you.
Right.
And that's what happens today. Instead of saying, you know what, these guys are the ones who are the pioneers, I'm going to pay that respect to them. Hopefully that my actions and through my hard work, I'm able to level to that level. And then you leave it up to the universe to get you there. You see how that's different?
Yeah.
You know, it's funny.
Sure.
It's funny like the deals that I do, right? Out of respect in my life, no matter what I do, if there's somebody in my world that's in a certain profession, let's take Carson, for example. I kind of feel like, you know, I kind of mentor him, so a little different. But let's take Carson, and let's take, like, for example, Joe, where the camp that he came in. If I'm going to do a business deal and it comes to real estate, just out of common courtesy, I'm going to tell him about it. I'm going to say, you know what? I'm going to take down this deal, and this is why. Because what I don't want is someone on the back end to say, well, I thought you and the general were fucking close, and he's taking down these deals in the background, and did he use you? You'd feel fucking pissed, right? Same thing with me. You don't have to use harmonics, but if you can use another technology company, come to me and say, you know what, dude, you know what, I can't afford fucking Lamborghini, so I went with these guys, and I'm going to say, okay, you're going to come back and pay double the fucking price, but that's all right. I'll be waiting for you. But it's that common courtesy.
Yeah.
Right? And I've shared this with you guys.
Yeah, we talked about it before.
It's not about, or you're like this, right? You're sitting around someone, and they're talking mad fucking shit, and they know they talk mad shit, and you're in the situation, right? And then guess what? They're going to bring you in and say, you know what? Well, the general is right there with us talking mad shit. What I do is I give people the warning and say, okay, you fucking are talking about so-and-so. And so if you want me to reiterate everything you just said, you're going to continue this conversation. But I'm just going to let you know that I'm going to let them be aware. I'm not going to bring the gossip to them that you talk a lot of shit and that they need to have a conversation with you. You see what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, because then you're guilty by association.
You're guilty by association. And I don't know how many times I've been with powerful, powerful killers that literally that line has saved my ass, because guess what? It's come through. They said, whoa, that guy, you know, you guys have this negativity, but I'm not going to bring them down. And this is when I left a firm called CA. I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for them. Regardless of how we ended up at the end, there's no way. And so anytime anybody would talk foul, I would step in and say, shut the fuck up. I'm not going to partake in this. Because I wouldn't be here without them. It's kind of like that story, like I can kick your ass, but no one else can. You know what I'm trying to say?
Right.
But people don't have that respect anymore. And that's what's so sad, right? Is that they just think that it's a community thing. And so that's why I decided to partake. And I think for me, in what all these topics that we've talked about and kind of like ending in this podcast is, number one is, again, you have to know who your authentic self is. And you have to stick to that, right? Know who the person across the table or who's sleeping next to you in bed or whatever you want to call it, what is their authentic self? They're not going to change from that. And so ultimately, or the people's intentions in business, like I tell you immediately, like I'll sit and do a business deal. I'm with Carson. I say, look, if I'm not making an 18% return on this hardcore asset, there's got to be a fucking change. There's nothing personal to it. Nothing personal. I've told you that multiple times, right? Mm-hmm. And I run the spreadsheet. Yeah. Right. I mean, I own a lot of property. People come to me and say, hey, I want to rent from you. I'm like, sorry, you got to go to my property management company, go through the process, do that. I don't handle that. Well, it'd be a lot easier if I go to you. I said, yeah, but you know what? You don't want to deal with me because when you call me, I'm going to get shit fixed. But if you do it the right way, we got the due diligence. You know what I'm trying to tell you? Mm-hmm. And so I think that it's kind of that piece. You have got anything to end with, John? Any thoughts?
No, I thought the topic was really good today, you know, because it makes me reflective. And because I have my guitar sitting in my bedroom that I kept telling myself this whole time, get practice. And I haven't. And I look back and it makes me reflective. And even just little pieces that you guys described that, and that's what the point of this is. You want to try and empower people to try and better themselves. And I see all these little different examples because then I want to go and be able to teach my sons these things, mm-hmm. Little things that are important, that oftentimes even it's just the little things, but then it becomes the snowball that becomes a big thing in your life.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
You kind of just getting involved in all this stuff, and it's been really cool to watch you, but have you seen a change in even just your train of thought when something
absolutely.
Just by affiliation.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
look how powerful that is. You know, it's like
Yeah,
such
and
a powerful thing. And I was curious because, you know, you weren't intended to come to the show or whatever it is,
Mhm.
but we're divinely guided. And it's just so crazy how you're just like this, you know, keen dad and coach and teacher, but how beautiful the seeds got planted in you.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And how that's gonna send out seeds to more, you know, and it's just like that's just the power of what you just said, power of affiliation.
And-
just stepping in has changed him, guaranteed.
And I tell people this. I'm going to take credit for this one. I know. I manifested John. I'm going to tell you why. Carson knows this. For about 3-4 weeks, it's crazy. And I've known John. It's crazy because we've been in these circles for a long time. And I said, I am fucking tired of not being able to run things by someone. I'm not being a dick about this, but at like an intellectual level. What I mean by intellectual, it's not that you have a Harvard degree or that. It's that you can actually reference 3 written documents that have been
Factual information.
Say this. And the crazy part is, you got to think about this, right? John's liberal as shit, and I'm conservative as shit, and we don't have any of these issues back and forth when we're talking. We're able to sit back and say, well, that makes sense. When he brings something, I'm like, holy shit, I never thought about it that way. And so what I mean about the manifestation is, if I was like, this is what it is. And it was crazy how shit happened, right? And we're in there, we got the number, and I'm like, hey, John, podcast. Oh, yeah, we're going to do this. Coach can't make it. Okay, we're still on. And it was crazy because he just kind of just fell into this. But we get so many positive feedback on the podcast. Like, I really like the point that guy brought, because I think a lot of the listeners in life can really, really relate to your life. And I mean, I don't know how many comments I've gotten that, man, that guy's a freaking special dad. Well, he did that. He put it into himself. And I'm like, yeah. We were talking about you in the office, like, I think it was like a week ago. And they're like, you know, that's what it's about. And somebody was like, you know what? That's what I have to do. I have to put the time into my kids instead of me trying to get to this, but I didn't make it. And it's not what about making it. I'm happy where I'm at, but I'm going to do this so I can get the kids to the next level. Mm-hmm. And it was so crazy that we had that conversation. And an individual in my office played the clip that you had. And I thought that was so freaking powerful. And that has nothing to do with this. This is just coming in.
Yeah.
You know what I'm trying to tell you?
Yeah. Oh, no doubt. No doubt.
Divinely guided.
No, because, and I tried to, you know, I look at myself and I say, okay, well, I think there's plenty of areas that I have really a lot of enlightenment to when it comes to political science or world history or, you know, social studies. And I mean, that's what I've taught for 22 years, but there's so many other places. And that's how every single human being can be, is that they can have a growth mindset. Their minds can continue to grow. You know, there are things that you guys each week have brought up, and I'm like, dang it, I've never thought of it that dang way, you know. And I know I'm intelligent. I know I am, but I know that there's so many other places that I want to continue to grow, you know, and that should be the whole point of this. Is it should inspire people to say, okay, and not just have that chip on your shoulder and say, oh, I'm not going to learn anything, you know, and I look at my father, and him and we have butt heads because he's that rock that refuses to change. And this is the analogy that I use, and I showed you guys in Asia, is you never want your mind like this, because you can't receive and you can't give anything. But if your mind is like this, you can receive and you can give, right? Mm-hmm. Or you can inflict. So being like rock doesn't mean shit, because if you propel water in a certain way, right, like a jet cutter, you're going to cut the rock, you're going to cut the steel. So being rock doesn't mean you're going to be harder or sharp. It just means you're going to get cut or broken that easier, right? And so you want to be like water. And I think, John, one of the things is with you, I think you do have that intellect. And one of the things I think that's, even in the community, it's weird how stuff comes out. And you're a rebel like me, in the sense that, and you've shared this before on the podcast, there's people that haven't agreed with you, like in your teaching methods or what it is, but you hit them with facts. Mm-hmm. And then what are they going to say? Down to principles, right? And I've been in this situation all the time. This is what I live. People have an opinion about me, even in performance, and I just hit you with a performance card, right? And then we're sitting there, and nobody can say shit. Yeah. Right? The opinions go out the door. Yeah. I don't know how many lawsuits I've been in where experts come in and say, this guy's work is the most superior work that I've ever seen done. End of opinion. Right. So, Nikki, any closing in mind?
Yeah, I had this analogy that and this kind of could go with this and what we've said, but I've always thought, like, you have a car, right? and you can have a badass motor in it. You can have a badass transmission. But if you're under, stuff like your ball joints and stuff has been worn and teared and you don't change that shit, your motor doesn't mean nothing, and let that go to show of like your life. Your life is a car and there's different elements in it. And you could have the nicest paint job, but it doesn't run. You can have the nicest rims, but it doesn't turn, but just something to know that everything can be changed and everything can be, higher performance. And, you can do so much to your vessel as a human in this life that we live. You just got to know, you got to change that oil. You got to, maintenance. You got to change parts. Sometimes you just got to burn the fucking car down and start it fresh and get a new one, but it's just like, that's something that I came thinking here, and it kind of reflected so much on it. It's always like just tuning and toning on all those.
But
those
even that
things.
reflection there, and this is what I'm touching. I want to touch you right here. This is important, right? So what I want you to think about this, Nikki, and this is back in the past, and I'm sound like Dr. Phil over here. Cars don't come with great tires, great transmissions, great motors, great paint jobs, and then the ball joint goes. What you've been settling for your life is something that's shiny. And there's an old saying that says, everything that glitters is not gold. And so when you really go to statistical mathematics, if the paint looks good and the tires are good, motor's good and all that, then the ball joint should be good because the guy's maintained it all the way. So what you've had is parts of the body looking good, but the rest is just fucked up because you never burn the car down. So self-consciously, when you said, I'll burn the car down, is basically you've had a bunch of fucking cars that have glittered, but none of those parts have been in place.
Totally.
And so what I'm telling you, because I don't have that experience, right?
Yeah.
Because it's maybe an oil change and a leak. And so never get maintenance with fucking overhaul confused.
I love it.
And so what you're going to leave, and we're going to close on this, is this, people out there. Do not get maintenance with overhaul confused. If you got to overhaul the fucking person across you, get jumped the fuck out, because you're not that mental mechanic, right? So never get overhaul and maintenance confused.
I love that.
The truth.
That's good.
We're out.
Yes. It was
We're out.
great. Thank
Later,
you.
guys.
Guys, I remember when I introduced you.
I know.
Harmonix Technologies, your New Mexico business IT solution. With incredible products that will fit your needs both big and small, and unmatched service, it's your vision delivered. Learn how we can help your business roar into action today. Harmonix Technologies, your New Mexico business IT solution.
I just left a shoot. I have my makeup done. Do you mind meeting me to go shoot? And what did I say? Because I stay ready. My batteries are charged,
Let's
right?
go.